All right, today we're jumping into the absolutely incredible story of a man who, in just 25 years, managed to lead a rebellion, found a new religion, and become a literal god to his people. This is the story of Birsa Munda. So let's just start with that, because that's the central question, isn't it? How does one young man from a community pushed to the very margins rise up to challenge what was then the most powerful empire on Earth? It's an unbelievable story of faith, rebellion, and the fight for an identity. And look, this isn't just some campfire story or myth. Birsa Munda's life and his struggle, they're a crucial part of India's history, as you can see from historical research like this. So, to really get it, we need to break down the world he was born into. To understand the man, you've got to understand the pressure cooker of an environment that created him. For the Adivasi, the tribal communities of the Chota Nagpur region, the 19th century was just a time of immense, unrelenting hardship. What you're seeing here is really a slow-motion crisis. It's not one thing, it's a pileup. First, the British Raj arrives and starts asserting control. Then this landlord system, the zamindari system, comes in and just systematically dismantles their land rights. I mean, it turned people who were owners into laborers on their own soil. And then, kind of the final nail in the coffin, the Forest Act of 1882 cut them off from the very forests that were their lifeline. It was a complete teardown of their entire way of life. You know, the Munza people had a single word for all these oppressive forces, diku. And that one word, it captured the whole rotten system, from the local moneylender charging these impossible interest rates, all the way up to the British official enforcing some unjust law. To them, the dikus were simply the outsiders who were destroying their world. But out of all that desperation, a new voice starts to emerge. A young man who didn't just see the suffering around him, he felt like he was called to do something about it. So Birsa was truly a child of this turmoil. He was born right into the middle of it. So every single day of his young life was basically a lesson in the injustice his community was facing. He saw the poverty, he saw the forced labor, the loss of dignity. He saw it all firsthand. Now, what's so important to understand here is that he didn't just become a political leader. Nope, he first became a spiritual one. He'd spent some time in a missionary school, but in the end, he rejected their teachings. He also challenged some of the older tribal rituals. Instead, he created something new, the faith of Birzite. It preached a belief in one God, and it called for a return to a purer, more empowered Adivasi identity. And this right here perfectly sums up his dual role. See, he wasn't just a preacher, he was a prophet with a mission. He claimed he'd seen a divine vision, and that vision wasn't just about being spiritually pure. It was about political freedom. It was about reclaiming the kingdom of his people from the Dikus. So, with this spiritual movement gaining steam behind him, the stage was set for a political rebellion. A rebellion that would get a very powerful name. Olgalan, it means the Great Tumult, and honestly, that name just perfectly captures the revolutionary storm Birsa was about to unleash. This wasn't going to be just a protest. This was a mass agitation, and its goal was to completely overthrow the power structure and establish Munda self-rule. The movement had been building up for years, but in 1899, it reached its fiery peak. This was the year the talking stopped and the real fighting began. So who were they fighting? Well, the targets were crystal clear. They went after every single symbol of Daiku rule. We're talking colonial police stations, the properties of landlords and moneylenders, and even the Christian missions they felt were chipping away at their culture. It was a full-on assault on the entire colonial machine. But here's the thing, when you challenge the Dikus, you're challenging the full might of the British Empire. And, well, the empire did not like being challenged. The response was swift, it was methodical, and it was brutal. The British administration didn't see the Ugalan as some plea for justice. No, they saw it as a direct threat to their authority. So warrants were issued, forces were deployed, and a massive manhunt began for the young prophet leading this whole thing. After months on the run, the end came quietly. Birsa Munda was captured, not in some blaze of glory on a battlefield, but he was betrayed and found while he was asleep in the forest. The great tumult, it was over. He was just 25 years old. Just think about that for a second. Everything we've talked about, founding a religion, leading a mass rebellion, becoming a legend, He did all of that by the age of 25.
He would never even see a trial. Just a few months after they captured him, Birsa Munda died in a jail in Ranchi. The British said the cause was cholera, a claim that, let's just say, has been viewed with a lot of suspicion ever since. His life had ended, but his story was really just beginning.
Because even though the man was gone and the Ugulan had been crushed, the ideals he fought for, they didn't die in that jail cell with him. And this right here shows why he's still so important today. His rebellion actually forced the British to act. The Chota Nagpur Tenancy Act of 1908 was passed, and it gave the tribal communities at least some legal protection over their lands. That was a direct result of his sacrifice. Now, his birthday is celebrated as Tribal Pride Day in India, and he stands as this incredible, powerful symbol of indigenous resistance against colonial rule, not just in India, but anywhere in the world. So here's the real takeaway. Empires rise and fall. Governments change, but stories endure. The British are long gone from India, but in the villages of his homeland, Birsa Munda isn't just a historical figure in a book. He's a god, he's a hero, and his bravery is kept alive in songs passed down from one generation to the next. And that kind of leaves us with this final thought, right? Birsa Munda's story shows that true immortality isn't about how long you live. It's about what you fight for. It's just a powerful reminder that the fight for justice, for dignity, and for self-rule can echo for a very, very long time after the fighter is gone.